back with another reaction video! Today we are looking at Harrow and Wealdstone train disasters 68 years later from Thunderbolt 1000 Siren Productions. So without further ado, here we go! I just like this.
One train derailing is bad enough. 2 trains colliding is even worse. But a 3-train crash?
What?
That is something not only rare, but is a kind of tragedy no one would dare to think about.
I've heard of no such
Sadly,
thing.
such horrific wrecks have involved 3 trains, like the Clapham Junction collisions. But many years before, there was a wreck just like Clapham, only 3 times more catastrophic. The day is October 8th, 1952. The location, Harrow and Wealdstone Station on the West Coast Main Line in the UK. At around 8:17 a.m., the 7:31 a.m. train to Euston local stopped at Platform 4 at Harrow and Wealdstone, approximately 7 minutes late due to fog. The train is led by LMS Fowler 264T number 42389, running bunker first. The engine was pulling 9 coaches and had around 800 passengers on board. It was busier than usual because the next train to Euston service had been cancelled. As scheduled, it had traveled from Tring on the slow line, switching to the fast line just before Harrow to keep the slow lines to the south of the station clear for empty stock movements if needed. Meanwhile, the 8:15 p.m. Perth to Euston Night Express was making its way toward Harrow, with 11 coaches carrying approximately 85 passengers, hauled by British Rail Coronation Class 462, number 46242, known as the City of Glasgow, running 1 hour, 20 minutes late, also due to the fog. Another train was coming the opposite way. It was the 8 a.m. express from Euston to Liverpool and Manchester,
fog would be like a big hassle
carrying
for
15
trains as
coaches
well as,
with 200 people
regular
on
vehicles.
board, and 2 steam engines were pulling it. British Rail number 45637, which was a Jubilee Class 460 named Windward Islands, and British Rail number 46202, a Princess Royal Class 462,
way
called
off
the
with all
Princess
these numbers.
Anne. At 8:19 a.m., just as the guard of the local was walking back to his brake van after checking the doors on the last 2 carriages,
Oh. Not even 3 minutes in. Stop blowing the whistle! Oh, jeez.
the Perth Express crashed into the rear of the local at a speed of 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. That's 50 to 60 miles per hour. The collision completely destroyed the 3 wooden coaches at the rear of the train where most of the casualties occurred, telescoping them into one another, and drove the entire train 20 yards forward. The leading 2 vans and 3 coaches of the Perth train then piled up behind and above the locomotive. Wreckage also blocked the adjacent down fast line, which was where the Liverpool Express was coming in. The leading locomotive of the Liverpool train struck the derailed locomotive of the Perth train and derailed, doing almost 60 miles an hour. Both engines of the Liverpool train then plowed across the platform before landing on their side on the adjacent DC electric main line, causing it to short circuit. The yellow line had its current quickly switched off by the signalman, thus preventing any further collisions with it. The leading 7 coaches, plus a kitchen car from the Liverpool train, were carried forward by the momentum, overriding the existing wreckage and piling up on top of it. Several of these coaches struck the underside of the station footprints, tearing away at a steel girder. Rescuers soon arrive at 8:22 a.m. and find a scene of chaos. 3 trains have all smashed into each other and have piled up into a huge pile of wreckage, people, and bodies. The fire brigade, ambulance, and police services were being assisted by doctors and a medical unit from the United States Air Force, which were based 5 miles away at a Royal Air Force base called West Ruislip. Help was accepted from the Salvation Army, the Women's Voluntary Service, and local residents who were nearby when the crash occurred.
Getting help from everywhere.
The first loaded ambulance left at 8:27 a.m., and by 12:15 p.m., most of the injured were already in hospital. The search for survivors continued until 1:30 the following morning, where all they found were just bodies. 102 people died in the crash instantly, including the driver and fireman of the Perth Express, and the driver of the lead engine of the Liverpool Express. 10 more would later die in hospital, bringing the official death toll at 112. 340 sustained very serious injuries of varying degrees, but were alive. The public demanded answers as to why the trains crashed. The Ministry of Transport did an investigation to find out what had happened. The local train should have been protected by 2 semaphore signals, with one 190 yards away and the other 440 yards away. There was also one standard light signal much further away. Tests indicated the signals all worked as intended. On this section of track, the local trains have priority over the long-distance expresses during rush hour. So the Perth Express should have been expecting adverse signals warning him of locals occupying track ahead. However, it was soon found that the Perth Express was not aware of the signals. The express had passed a colored light signal at yellow and 2 older semaphore signals at red. The train also forced its way through the back points on the crossover from the slow lines, which were still set for the local. So how did the driver miss them? Did he just ignore them because he was late? Well, while the fog had lifted in the vicinity of Harrow Station, with visibility improving for about 300 yards ahead, witnesses estimated that the up-fast distant track only had 50 to 100 yards visibility, so at 15 miles an hour, you'd only have 4 seconds to accurately read the signals. But then came one more factor that could have prevented disaster. Automatic Warning System, or AWS for short, was still in its developmental stages at the time of the wreck. AWS works by using a magnetic sensor to read signal aspects via ramps on the track bed, triggering the display in the cab, nicknamed the sunflower dial. If the signal was green, a chime is sounded. If it's a yellow or a red, a horn is heard in the cab, and if nothing happens, the train goes into emergency stop. This could have prevented disaster, as even though the fog partially obscured the signal, AWS would have warned the engineer of the signal aspect, and the crew would know to slow down and stop.
Right.
Roads at the time said such a system was too costly to install at the time, but after Harrow, development was accelerated, and by 1977, over 1/3 of British Rail tracks had AWS fitted and working. After the accident, little was left of British Rail 45637, having taken the brunt of the impact when hitting 46242, and was scrapped. 46202 was also scrapped as its pilot wheels were ripped from the frame and the frame itself was dented. Both 45637 and 46202's nameplates were acquired by the Doncaster Grammar School Railway Society and remained at the school on display. 46242, the city of Glasgow, was rebuilt and remained in service until being retired in 1963 and being cut up at Crewe Works. 42389 was undamaged, but was retired in 1963 and also scrapped. 13 coaches, 2 bogie vans, and a kitchen car were destroyed or severely damaged in the collisions. Experts criticized the local layout of the track. The train had to wait on the fast line to keep the length of the rods between the points and the signal box down. The junction between the slow and fast lines lay beyond the station. The junction was then changed to make it safer in 1962. A memorial plaque for the disaster was unveiled in 2002 to mark the 50th anniversary. A mural was painted along the bordering road featuring scenes from Wealdstone's history by children from local schools and dedicated in the victim's memory. 67 years have passed since this tragedy, and it's fair to say the disaster indeed led Britain to make rail travel much safer.
That's crazy. I had never heard of 3 trains crashing together. And I'd be surprised if that happens still to this day. Yeah, I feel bad for the 112 that had lost their lives because of other people's mistakes. Well, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section, and let me know if there's another video like this you would like for me to react to. Until next time, I send love, and I'll see you guys soon!